Across America's most iconic mountain towns, a silent collapse is unfolding, prices plunging, buyers vanishing, and once booming communities slipping into crisis. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, I'll reveal exactly why these beloved places are falling apart, and what it means for anyone thinking of buying, selling, or investing. Aspen, Colorado. Aspen has long been the crown jewel of the Rockies. Glittering, wealthy, untouchable. But behind the polished storefronts and celebrity mansions, something darker is unfolding. Homes that once sparked bidding wars now sit under a heavy silence, price cuts stacking like fallen snow. Wealthy buyers have pulled back, spooked by soaring taxes, insurance spikes, and a market so inflated it finally snapped. Local workers are fleeing too, unable to survive the crush of living costs, leaving empty streets where the winter rush once roared. Even longtime owners whisper that Aspen may be changing in ways they never imagined. But here's the unsettling part. The trouble starting here is already spreading outward, fast. And the next town on this list shows just how dangerous that ripple can become. Vail, Colorado. Vail was once the dream. Fresh powder, luxury lodges, and a real estate market that felt invincible. But that shine is cracking fast. Listings that used to disappear overnight now gather dust, each week forcing sellers to slash deeper just to get a single showing. Insurance hikes and fragile seasonal demand have cornered homeowners who never imagined they could fall underwater here. Even the resort workforce is thinning. Many can't keep up with the runaway rent, leaving businesses scrambling to survive the slow months. Longtime locals say the town feels lighter, as if the energy that once pulled people in is quietly slipping away. Yet as Vail teeters, an even more unsettling story is unfolding in another mountain town, one that looked stronger on paper, but is collapsing in a way no one saw coming. Park City, Utah. Park City built its reputation on endless festivals, booming tourism, and a housing market that seemed to defy gravity. But now the momentum has stalled and the slowdown is impossible to ignore. Luxury condos that once triggered bidding frenzies sit untouched, while buyers circle cautiously, waiting for prices to fall harder. Even vacation home investors, once Park City's lifeblood, are pulling back after short-term rental profits collapsed under new restrictions and shrinking visitor demand. Locals are feeling the squeeze too, with soaring costs pushing families out of neighborhoods that used to feel tight-knit and permanent. The optimism that defined this ski town has been replaced by a quiet tension, as if everyone is bracing for something bigger. And the real twist? The next place on this list isn't just cooling, it's unraveling in a way that could rewrite the future of mountain real estate entirely. Breckenridge, Colorado. Snow-dusted rooftops sit beneath a sky that always seems to glow, as if Breckenridge keeps a quiet fire burning just for those who arrive seeking something more than a simple mountain escape. Here, the cold doesn't bite, it welcomes, wrapping every street, lodge, and hidden trail in a warmth carved from old mining tales and young adventurer dreams. Shops hum softly along Main Street, lanterns flickering against wooden beams that remember decades of wanderers passing through. The mountains surrounding the town rise like stern guardians, their ridgelines sharp yet inviting, promising a deeper story for anyone willing to follow the wind a little farther. Ski tracks cut fresh lines through the powder, each path feeling like an unfinished sentence waiting for the right traveler to complete it. But tonight, as the lights dim and the slopes fall silent, a strange shimmer moves along the distant peak. So brief, so deliberate, that you can't help wondering what unknown path is about to open next. Big Sky, Montana. But the moment you step into Big Sky, the horizon feels wider than anywhere you've ever stood. An untouched sweep of wilderness where the mountains don't just rise, they command. There's a raw, unfiltered power here, the kind that settles in your chest and makes every breath feel sharper, clearer, almost ancient. Cabins tucked between towering pines glow softly in the dusk, their chimneys whispering into the cold air as if trading secrets with the forest. Down in the valley, trails curve like old scars across the land, each one shaped by explorers who chased the promise of something greater in these wild expanses. And above it all, Lone Peak stands silent and immovable, daring anyone to truly understand its depth. But just as the night takes hold, a distant rumble trembles through the dark, too steady to be wind, too alive to be thunder, hinting that tomorrow's calm may be hiding a story no one is prepared for. Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe, California. South Lake Tahoe has always felt like a living postcard. Crystal clear water shimmering against snow-capped peaks, sunlight bouncing off the lake like scattered diamonds. For decades, it promised a perfect balance of serenity and exhilaration. Ski slopes in winter, sunlit trails in summer, and a downtown that hummed with travelers chasing the lake's magic. But beneath that beauty, the mood has shifted. Homes that once sold in bidding wars now linger quietly, price tags slipping lower as buyers hesitate. Insurance pressures, wildfire fears, and an unpredictable tourism cycle have started squeezing homeowners who once felt untouchable. The lake is still breathtaking, but the certainty that surrounded this place, that's beginning to thin like fog over the water. And as the shoreline hushes at dusk, a strange tension rises. Something in the stillness hinting that another mountain town once considered untouchable is about to reveal an even deeper fracture. Mammoth Lakes, California. Mammoth Lakes has always carried a kind of wild electricity. Those towering peaks, the volcanic ridges, the high-altitude air that makes every sunrise feel sharper and every snowfall feel cinematic. It used to be the kind of place where real estate vanished in days, fueled by second-home buyers chasing the dream of endless powder and quiet alpine nights. But that momentum has slowed to a crawl. Homes linger on the market longer than anyone expected. Vacation rentals sit half-empty in seasons that once overflowed, and rising insurance costs are pushing longtime owners toward choices they swore they'd never make. Even the energy of the village feels dimmer, like the spark that powered this mountain escape is wavering. And just as the last lift shuts down for the evening, whispers of trouble brewing in another high-altitude haven begin to drift up the slopes, foreshadowing a shift far colder than Mammoth's winter air. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Jackson Hole has long been the crown jewel of the Rockies, rugged, majestic, wrapped in a kind of wilderness that feels almost sacred. For years, the elite poured in, driving prices so high that homes became trophies, and the entire valley seemed carved out for those who could afford isolation with a view. But that unstoppable rise is finally showing cracks. Inventory is swelling, luxury listings sit longer than anyone imagined, and even wealthy buyers are hesitating as insurance climbs, taxes squeeze tighter, and market volatility shakes confidence. Seasonal workers struggle to stay, longtime residents quietly pack up, and the once unbreakable rhythm of the town feels strangely offbeat. Jackson Hole is still stunning, but the certainty that protected it all these years is slipping. And as twilight settles over the Tetons, a new concern stirs, hinting that the next mountain town on this list is hiding an even sharper fall. Sun Valley, Idaho. Sun Valley has always shimmered with a quiet prestige. America's original ski resort, where Hollywood icons once slipped into snowy hideaways, and the wealthy claimed chalets as winter trophies. Its slopes carried a legacy, a myth almost, that this place was immune to the cycles affecting ordinary towns. But that illusion is fading faster than the season's last patch of snow. Homes that once sparked bidding wars now sit through long, uneasy stretches on the market. Rental demand wobbles with unpredictable tourist swings, and rising insurance and maintenance costs are tightening the vice on owners who once felt untouchable. Even the village, usually buzzing with effortless charm, has moments of unsettling stillness. And as night crawls across the valley, shadows gather in the pines, hinting that the next mountain town is bracing for a downturn far steeper than anyone is ready to admit. Crested Butte, Colorado. Crested Butte has always carried a soul unlike any other mountain town. Colorful streets, fiercely loyal locals, and an untamed beauty that made visitors feel like they'd stumbled into a hidden world. It wasn't just a ski haven, it was a community built on grit, charm, and a pride that ran deep through every trail and every wooden storefront. But even this fiercely independent gem is feeling the strain. Housing inventory is rising, price reductions are becoming routine, and seasonal workers, once the heartbeat of the town, are being pushed out by soaring living costs. Tourism remains unpredictable, creating pockets of silence where crowds once gathered, and longtime residents whisper about a shift they can't quite name but definitely feel. And as the peaks darken under the fading evening light, Crested Butte's calm seems to tremble, foreshadowing an even more dramatic unraveling in the mountain town that comes next. Telluride, Colorado. Telluride has always felt like a miracle tucked between mountains. A remote box canyon wrapped in cinematic cliffs, Victorian charm, and a sense of exclusivity that once made every street hum with quiet confidence. For years, buyers treated this place like a rare treasure, snapping up homes as if the supply could never run thin. But that invincible mystique is starting to wobble. Listings linger, luxury prices soften, and even longtime owners admit the rising costs of insurance, maintenance, and taxes are pushing them to reconsider the dream they once fought to keep. The town's rhythm feels different now. Slower, heavier, as if the canyon walls themselves are listening to a shift in the wind. And here's the unsettling question everyone's whispering. If Telluride can slip, what mountain town, one once considered even stronger, might be the next to unravel? Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Steamboat Springs has always carried its own kind of magic, soft-falling champagne powder, ranch town authenticity, and a community spirit that felt grounded even as prices climbed sky high. For years, it balanced luxury and laid-back living better than almost any mountain town in the West. But now, that balance is tipping. Homes that once sparked instant bidding wars are gathering dust, and sellers are cutting deeper each month just to stay competitive. Tourism swings have become unpredictable. Vacancies appear in shoulder seasons, and the rising weight of insurance, utilities, and property taxes is squeezing both locals and long-term investors. Even the newly expanded resort can't fully mask the uneasy shift beneath the surface. And as the gondola lights fade into the evening, one thought hangs in the cooling air. Is Steamboat's slowdown just the beginning, or a warning sign of something far more disruptive waiting up ahead? Whitefish, Montana. Whitefish has always felt like the definition of mountain perfection. Glassy lakes, a charming downtown, and ski slopes that glow under winter moonlight. It was the kind of town where people arrived planning a weekend and ended up dreaming about a lifetime. But beneath that postcard beauty, the cracks are widening. Inventory keeps rising, homes sit longer than anyone in town is used to, and price cuts are becoming an uncomfortable new normal. Tourism, once a reliable engine, now sputters between unpredictable highs and worrying lows. Even longtime residents admit the cost of staying here, insurance, utilities, basic living, has begun to feel like a steep mountain no one planned to climb. The energy that once made Whitefish shimmer is flickering, and as the lake settles into its silent evening glass, a quiet question ripples across the water. What deeper shift could be hiding beneath this sudden calm? Bend, Oregon. Bend was once the golden child of the Pacific Northwest. Sun-drenched trails, breweries on every corner, and a real estate boom that felt unstoppable. People poured in for the lifestyle, the views, the promise of wide-open space with a modern edge. But that rush has slowed, and the shine is starting to dull. Homes that used to vanish in hours now sit through long, uneasy stretches. Price reductions have become a weekly pattern, and even cash buyers, once Bend's secret fuel, are stepping back as insurance, taxes, and utility costs climb higher than expected. Tourism wobbles between overcrowded weekends and surprisingly empty shoulder seasons, leaving businesses caught in the middle. The town still feels alive, but not invincible. And as the last light fades behind the Cascades, one thought lingers in the cooling air. Is Bend's shift a temporary pause, or the first hint of a much larger unraveling across the entire region? Flagstaff, Arizona. Flagstaff has always stood apart, a cool, pine-covered refuge in the middle of Arizona's high desert, where mountain trails meet historic Route 66 charm. For years, people flocked here for a lifestyle that felt both adventurous and grounded, and the real estate market exploded as buyers chased that rare blend of forested serenity and college town energy. But lately, the pulse has changed. Listings linger longer than locals are used to, and sellers are quietly trimming prices as rising insurance costs and economic uncertainty weigh heavier than expected. Seasonal tourism feels shakier, vacancy rates flicker, and even longtime residents admit the cost of staying in Flagstaff is starting to feel like a storm gathering on the horizon. The town that once felt steady now carries a strange, unpredictable tension. And with that tension comes a question few want to say out loud. What happens if Flagstaff's slow fade is only the opening act for something far more dramatic in the mountains ahead? Durango, Colorado. Durango has always carried a frontier spirit. Historic railways echoing through the canyon, red cliffs glowing at sunset, and a downtown that blended adventure with Old West grit. It was the kind of place where real estate felt steady, grounded by tourism, college life, and a tight-knit community. But recently, that dependable rhythm has started to slip out of tune. If you're finding these market insights valuable, tap like and subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown. Homes are sitting longer, price cuts appear more frequently, and rising insurance and utility costs are starting to squeeze both new buyers and families who've been here for generations. Tourism swings feel sharper, shoulder seasons quieter, and businesses that once thrived year-round now whisper about unpredictable months ahead. Durango's charm is still undeniable, but the sense of stability that surrounded it is beginning to tremble. And as the Animas River settles under the fading evening light, another question surfaces. What hidden shift is waiting just beyond Durango's horizon, ready to shake the next mountain town even harder? Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Pagosa Springs has always felt like a quiet miracle. Hot springs steaming in the cold morning air, wide open meadows framed by the San Juan Mountains, and a town that once moved at a calm, comforting rhythm. For years, buyers came seeking peace, affordability, and that small-town warmth missing from bigger resort communities. But lately, the balance that made Pagosa so appealing has begun to wobble. Listings are sitting longer, sellers are trimming prices, and the rising weight of insurance, taxes, and everyday expenses is pushing some longtime residents to reconsider their roots. Tourism, once the anchor of the town, now swings between unpredictable highs and empty stretches, leaving businesses unsure of what each season will bring. The easy confidence Pagosa carried for decades is slipping into something far more fragile. And as steam drifts into the cooling night air, one unsettling question rises with it. What deeper shift is this tranquil town sensing that the rest of the mountains haven't yet seen? Boulder, Colorado. Boulder was once the untouchable giant of Colorado, set against the Flatirons with world-class trails, a booming tech scene, and a housing market that seemed immune to gravity. For years, prices soared without hesitation, fueled by wealth, demand, and a belief that Boulder would always rise no matter what happened elsewhere. But now, those foundations are starting to tremble. Inventory is climbing faster than anyone expected, and homes that once ignited bidding wars are lingering in silence. Insurance spikes, tax pressure, and the growing cost of just living in Boulder are pushing even well-established families to consider leaving. The tech economy that once shielded the city is also showing hairline fractures, creating a new kind of uncertainty Boulder hasn't seen in decades. The confidence that once wrapped this town like armor is thinning, and as the Flatirons darken under the dusk, an uneasy thought drifts through the canyon winds. If Boulder can bend, what powerhouse mountain town is about to break next? Incline Village, Nevada. Incline Village has always been the crown jewel of the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe. Ultra-luxury homes tucked into pine-covered hills, private beaches, tax advantages, and a level of exclusivity few mountain towns could ever match. For years, the market here felt bulletproof, supported by wealth that only seemed to grow. But even this polished paradise is showing cracks beneath the surface. High-end listings are sitting far longer than usual. Price cuts, once unthinkable, are appearing on multi-million-dollar properties. And rising insurance costs are hitting owners who thought they were above the chaos affecting other towns. Seasonal tourism feels uneven. Businesses whisper about slowing foot traffic. And the once unshakable confidence of Incline Village is wobbling in ways locals never imagined possible. And as the lake reflects the last shimmer of evening light, a sharper question drifts across the still water. What happens if even the most protected enclave on Tahoe can't escape the slide that's coming next? Sandpoint, Idaho. Sandpoint has always felt like a secret whispered between mountains. Lake Pendorreal shimmering like liquid silver, the quiet charm of downtown, and a pace of life that made visitors dream about staying forever. For years, its affordability and beauty sparked a real estate rush that transformed this once sleepy town into one of the West's most coveted escapes. But that surge is losing steam. Homes are lingering longer, price cuts are appearing more often, and the rising weight of insurance and everyday costs is forcing some locals to rethink whether they can hold on. Tourism, once Sandpoint's heartbeat, now thumps unevenly, leaving businesses unsure of what each season will bring. Even the shadow of Schweitzer Mountain, usually a symbol of stability, feels heavier with each market shift. And as a cold breeze drifts across the lake's glassy surface, one question ripples through the stillness. Is Sandpoint merely slowing down, or bracing for a much sharper drop hiding just beyond the tree line? Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman rose fast, faster than anyone expected. Once a humble college and ranch town, it transformed almost overnight into one of America's hottest mountain markets, fueled by tech money, remote workers, and buyers desperate for big skies and bigger homes. Prices soared, development spread, and the belief took hold that Bozeman was the new standard for unstoppable growth. But now, the momentum that once felt electric is starting to dim. Inventory is climbing month after month, and properties that once triggered bidding wars are sitting through long, silent stretches. Insurance and tax increases are squeezing homeowners, while rent prices push locals farther out into the valley. Even the university buzz and booming tech scene can't fully hide the cracks forming beneath the surface. Bozeman still shines, but the glow feels thinner, almost strained. And as the Bridger Mountains fade into twilight, a chilling question settles into the cold air. What happens if the town that once symbolized the future is now giving us the first glimpse of a much deeper collapse? Truckee, California. Truckee has always carried that rugged old railroad soul. Historic brick buildings, snow-draped pines, and a steady flow of travelers chasing the magic of Tahoe without the chaos. For years, its real estate market felt bulletproof, powered by Bay Area buyers, remote workers, and the timeless appeal of mountain living. But now, the gears that once kept Truckee humming are grinding slower than anyone expected. Homes sit longer, price cuts stack up, and the surge of pandemic-era demand has cooled into a quiet, uneasy pause. Rising insurance premiums and wildfire concerns are pushing some homeowners to the edge, while vacation rental hosts whisper about seasons that suddenly feel too empty. Truckee hasn't lost its charm, but the confidence that used to surround it is shifting, almost trembling. And as cold night settles over the old rail lines, one thought echoes through the stillness. Is Truckee's slowdown a mere stumble, or the early sign of a far greater derailment waiting farther up the mountain? Taos, New Mexico. Taos has always moved to its own rhythm, an artistic heartbeat wrapped in centuries of culture, adobe warmth, and a landscape that feels almost spiritual. It wasn't just a mountain town, it was a sanctuary for painters, skiers, wanderers, and old souls seeking meaning in the shadow of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. But even this mystical haven is feeling the squeeze. Homes sit on the market longer, hesitant buyers wait on the sidelines, and rising insurance and maintenance costs are tightening the grip on longtime residents. Tourism, once steady and soulful, now wavers between crowded art festivals and unexpectedly quiet stretches that leave businesses guessing. The balance that made Taos magical is shifting, just enough for people to notice. And as twilight settles over the ancient pueblo, a haunting thought curls through the desert air. What deeper disruption is Taos sensing that the rest of the mountains haven't yet felt? Ogden Valley, Huntsville, Eden, Utah. Ogden Valley has always felt like a hidden sanctuary. Quiet water, rolling meadows, and mountains that guard a lifestyle built on stillness. Huntsville and Eden were the places people spoke of in hushed admiration, calling them the last untouched corners where skiing, paddling, and peaceful evenings blended effortlessly. But now, even this serene valley is feeling the tremor spreading across mountain towns. Homes that once disappeared in days now linger for weeks. Price reductions are becoming routine, and the growing strain of insurance and upkeep is pushing families to question whether they can hold on. Tourism, once steady and dependable, swings unpredictably, leaving businesses unsure how to plan for seasons that no longer follow familiar patterns. The beauty remains untouched, but the certainty beneath it is shifting. And as dusk settles over Pineview Reservoir, one thought quietly rises. What deeper change is this valley sensing before the rest of us see it coming? Snowmass Village, Colorado. Snowmass Village has always lived in Aspen's shadow, but in the best possible way. Bigger mountains, quieter mornings, and a sense of space that felt rare in the Rockies made it a dream for families and second home buyers. For years, real estate here moved with a confidence that suggested Snowmass would always remain a safe bet. But now, the mountain calm hides an uneasy shift. Listings sit longer than locals are used to, price cuts slip in more often, and insurance hikes are tightening the gap between those who stay and those who quietly prepare to leave. Tourism patterns have grown unpredictable, leaving resorts and businesses navigating seasons that refuse to behave like they used to. Snowmass still feels stunning, but less certain. And as the lifts slow under the fading sky, one question drifts through the cold air. What turn is coming next that no one in the valley is ready for? Kalispell, Montana. Kalispell has always been the steady heart of northwest Montana, close to Glacier National Park, wrapped in open skies, and grounded in a hometown feel that made newcomers fall in love fast. It wasn't flashy like Whitefish or explosive like Bozeman. It was reliable, affordable, and growing at a pace that felt almost comfortable. But now, that stability is wavering. Homes that once sold instantly are lingering, and price reductions have become a quiet but constant presence. Rising insurance costs and higher property taxes are squeezing families who thought Kalispell would remain their safe harbor. Even businesses feel the shift as tourism dips unevenly, and once busy seasons show surprising gaps. The valley still looks as breathtaking as ever, but the foundation beneath it feels less solid with each passing month. And as night settles over Flathead Lake, a deeper question rises. Is Kalispell's slowdown a pause, or the precursor to something far more jarring ahead? McCall, Idaho. McCall has always felt like a hidden treasure. Payette Lake shining like a mirror, pine-lined streets carrying the scent of wood smoke, and a downtown that blended small-town comfort with high-country adventure. For years, people came seeking the perfect balance of serenity and year-round recreation, and the real estate market soared as buyers chased that dream. But the momentum that once fueled McCall is slowing. Homes that used to vanish in days now sit through long, uncertain stretches. Sellers are trimming prices, insurance costs creep higher, and the expense of maintaining a mountain home is pushing some longtime residents to rethink their future. Tourism swings wildly, crowded one weekend, strangely quiet the next, leaving businesses unsure how to plan for seasons that no longer follow the old rhythm. And as the moon glides across Payette Lake's still surface, a quiet tension emerges. What shift is McCall feeling that the rest of Idaho might soon face? Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Gatlinburg has always been the beating heart of the Smokies. Glowing storefronts, winding mountain roads, and cabins perched above forests that hum with summer life. For years, investors treated the town like a guaranteed win, counting on non-stop tourism, packed rental calendars, and a market that seemed immune to downturns. But the ground beneath that confidence is shifting. Cabins that once booked months ahead now sit with unexpected vacancies. Price cuts appear more frequently, and rising insurance, especially wildfire-related, has started straining owners who once felt untouchable. Tourism still brings crowds, but the rhythm is uneven, with sudden slow stretches that leave businesses guessing. The mountains remain breathtaking, yet the sense of security around owning here is softening in ways locals can feel. And as the evening mist curls through the Smokies, a haunting question rises. What deeper shift is Gatlinburg sensing before anyone else notices? Boone, North Carolina. Boone has always carried a magnetic pull. College town energy wrapped in Blue Ridge calm, winding roads lined with red barns, and a mountain lifestyle that felt both youthful and timeless. For years, demand surged as buyers sought affordable cabins, strong rental income, and the cozy charm only Boone could offer. But lately, the rhythm has changed in ways no one expected. Homes are sitting longer. Price reductions slip into listings that once sparked bidding wars, and rising insurance and maintenance costs are tightening their grip on second homeowners. Even student housing, normally Boone's steady anchor, shows signs of wobbling as enrollment patterns and rental demand shift. The town still feels warm, lively, familiar, just not as unshakable as before. And as the Blue Ridge fog creeps over the hills, a new question stirs. What surprising twist is waiting to reshape Boone's future next? Leavenworth, Washington. Leavenworth has always felt like a mountain fairy tale. Bavarian streets glowing under string lights, snowy peaks towering above timber lodges, and festivals that made the whole town hum with life. It was the kind of place where demand seemed endless, where visitors turned into buyers, and where real estate felt almost charmed. But now, that charm is starting to crack. Homes linger on the market far longer than anyone in town is used to. Price cuts, once rare, are becoming a steady undercurrent, and rising insurance costs are squeezing homeowners who thought they'd found their forever haven. Tourism still draws crowds, but patterns have grown erratic, leaving shops and lodges unsure how to plan for seasons that no longer behave the way they used to. Leavenworth remains beautiful, magical, unforgettable, but its market isn't untouchable anymore. And as the lights dim over Front Street, one truth settles quietly into the mountain air. This chapter ends here, but the story of these unraveling mountain towns is only just beginning. And there you have it, some of the most charming, affordable, and adventure-filled mountain towns in America. Each one offers its own mix of scenery, culture, and small-town magic. If you enjoyed this list and want more travel guides just like it, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which town you'd move to tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.